Hello and welcome back, my body language buddies. Today, in episode 28, the big question is, was Kirk Franklin's apology real or fake? He had to apologize because his son had leaked a video where the gospel singer unleashed almost every curse word known to man. Some say that he shouldn't have apologized because that's just part of raising a son, and some claim that cursing is totally off bounds with that. But in this video, I will not only dissect that apology and Tamron Hall's interview, I'll also give you tips to read people's faces in real time and decode their true feelings. I was uploading 2 episodes per week, but I will be ramping up to 3 or even 4 due to so many cases popping every day. I love making these videos, and if you want to support me, all you have to do is like and subscribe. You can also buy me a coffee on Patreon. You'll find the link in the description. And there's also the link to download my free 100 body language tips in a single PDF. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy, and I want you to uncover the secrets that people try to hide from you. The first thing that you notice when you see Franklin's apology is that it's going to be a very quick ride, just 1 minute. It's great when someone decides to be succinct about apologizing because longer apologies tend to be filled with fluff, excuses, and even product pitches. I'm sure that since Derrick Jackson's apology analysis, you've learned to spot what happens in the first and last frame of a video versus the rest of the video itself. And Franklin's apology is another example of that. Let's watch the first 5 seconds to see how sharp are your observation skills.
Many of you know I have an older son named Kerrion Franklin. Many of you know I have an older son named Kerrion Franklin.
Yeah, it's not that hard to spot the difference between the very first frame of the video and when he starts to talk. This difference usually happens because people begin to record with their phones or with a camera, and upon pressing the button, they still have their real emotion on. Once it has begun is when they change to the attitude they want to project. That's why it's so important that every first frame of every video. In the first frame of the video, he has his chin up, his lips corners down in subtle anger, and his eyes are emotionless. That's the face of someone that is sure about what he has done. When he has to talk, he lowers his head, gets closer to the camera, as in trying to get closer to his audience and looking for empathy, and at the same time he raises his eyebrows. That's something we do to draw attention to what we are saying. It's easy to notice that in the first one the head is straight, determined, and in the second the head is tilted, trying to look more emotional. So in the very first frame of the apology, we already have a clue that he didn't want to apologize. Now, it's important to make a distinction between being sorry and apologizing. You can apologize without being sorry. You apologize, but you still stand by your actions. And that's what we're seeing here in just 5 seconds of video. By the way, I haven't mentioned his black sweater. Black, that we use it to defend ourselves, to show that we're adamant about our words. But he's sitting in a blue chair that looks like a throne. Blue is a symbol of purity, serenity, and wisdom. That's what he wants to project. Now, watch the way he talks about the relationship with his son, and let's see if you notice anything peculiar with his facial expressions.
For many years, we have had a toxic relationship with him as a family. We've tried for many years through counseling, through therapy, to try to rectify. For many years, we have had a toxic relationship with him as a family. We've tried for many years through counseling, through therapy, to try to rectify.
In other episodes, we've seen how just by recalling a memory, you live the emotion again, and that emotion shows in the face for a split second. When Franklin talks about the toxic relationship with his son, he displays real, authentic pain with his eyebrows together, his lip pressing, and the lip corners downwards. That's a real emotion that the only way to spot is in slow motion. So that's a very important clue about the case, because we need to be certain about how is their relationship, how it affects Franklin and his emotional display. What is so fascinating about body language is that we pick all these signals automatically. Our intuition tells us that there's a whole story behind these words, We need to be fluent in body language to understand them. There's also the rapid blinking, that shows that he's deeply affected by this situation. Now, it could be the relationship with his son, or the fact that the recording was leaked, but he's really upset. Let's see if you can spot what Franklin's mouth says in the next clip, and I'm not talking about words.
Recently, my son and I had an argument that he chose to record. Recently, my son and I had an argument that he chose to record.
That combination of lip pressing with tongue show is a clue that he's distressed by the fact that his son recorded a private conversation between them. And yes, the tongue show can also happen just to moisten the lips, but when you spot it clustered with both verbal statements or other mouth expressions, then it can be classified as an emotional reaction. And it happens again, like this.
And I'm sincerely sorry to all of you. I sincerely apologize. And I'm sincerely sorry to all of you. I sincerely apologize.
The exact same combination of lip pressing happens right at the end of the apology score. Now, it's not that you can't have emotions when apologizing. In fact, if someone apologizes and doesn't show any emotion, then they're not sincere at all. That will be psychopathic behavior. This is not the case because we can spot an emotional reaction. But in Franklin's facial expressions, we find enough clues to be sure that he's apologizing, but he's not sorry about it. And in the last clip, there was another more subtle clue that he's not sorry, and I'm sure your limbic system picked it up, but you didn't notice. Let's review that clip again to see if you can spot it this time.
And I'm sincerely sorry. And I'm sincerely sorry.
If you pay attention to Franklin's left side of the face, you notice that there is a micro-expression of covert anger. And it's so quick that it's really easy to miss, and the quality of the source video doesn't help either. The question is, what was he saying at that moment? What was the word that he pronounced in that instant?
Sincerely.
He's angry of having to affirm that he's sincere at that moment. As I told you before, there's a difference between apologizing and being sorry. And by now we have enough clues to know that Franklin is not sorry for what he did. That he's in a toxic relationship with his son, and this is the way he deals with it. That he's upset for that recording to have leaked into the public. But we are not finished yet, especially when you watch this.
And got that therapist on the phone to try to help. He never played that part of the recording. Got that therapist on the phone to try to help. He never played that part of the recording.
Franklin says that he had called the family therapist during the call, but he, his son, did not include that part in the leaked recording. What's important of the last clip is that when Franklin says he, referring to his son, he shows a micro-expression of contempt. So that's what he feels about his son at this moment. Now it's your turn to be the analyst. Watch the next clip and let's see what can you spot.
I'm not perfect. I'm human and I'm going to make mistakes and I'm trying to get it right. Please keep me and my family in your prayers. I'm human and I'm going to make mistakes and I'm trying to get it right.
What did your intuition tell you? The answer at the end of the video. There's also the interview that Tamron Hall did to Franklin and his wife Tammy. When you have two or more clips of the same case, one thing to keep in mind is to compare the emotions in each one to see if the person has changed their mind or if there's any change in attitude. I'm sure you'll find the first clip interesting.
I did it.
Just hours after the release of that, Kirk posted his own video. Just hours after the release of that.
Body language is no different from any other kind of language, in the sense that you have vocabulary that forms sentences and even paragraphs. In this case, you might have noticed that he shows the same facial expression combinations of his apology video. Rapid blinking, contempt, half smile, and lip pressing. That's the first clue that his feelings and his stance about the situation hasn't changed. But in the next clip, Franklin reacts in a way that we haven't seen yet.
Again, this show is about gospel music. It's not about Kirk Franklin, but this real news happened. Again, this show is about gospel music. It's not about Kirk Franklin, but this real news happened.
He lowers his face in shame. He's ashamed of what he did. And when he does that, he looks to his wife. That is a signal that he wants her to know that he's ashamed of this situation. And it's nice to watch when a couple is in sync, because you see that she returns the look. He lowers his face again, and then, when they both face the cameras, they do it at the same time. That is not practice. Those reactions and movements are real. Those are body language clues that they, as a couple, are really in sync and support each other. There's also this dynamic between couples when the head of one is tilted away from their partner or is tilted towards their partner. That's a great way to see if one of them wants to distance themselves because they don't agree or are ashamed or have something to hide, or there's friction about a certain topic. Notice that dynamic when Franklin begins to talk about Tammy, Kerrion's mother, and himself trying to work things out with his son.
And early on, Tammy, Sean, and myself, we started to realize that there needed to be some deeper help. And early on, Tammy, Sean, and myself, we started to realize that there needed to be some deeper help.
When he talks about that intervention that included his wife Tammy in order to work things out with his son, he tilts his head away from her. It's a body language signal that he feels that she should not be responsible for doing that work. Most probably Tammy is glad to help her husband and he's happy with that assistance, but on a visceral level he's showing like that problem is his. That is his responsibility. And that's another clue about his relationship with his son. But I have to say that I don't think that Franklin believes that he can actually help his son. How do I know it? Because of clue in the next clip.
So I never know, and I never want to give up. So I never know, and I never want to give up.
He says that he doesn't want to give up, but at the same time he shows a half smile of contempt. He's talking about always picking up his son's calls, trying to talk to him, trying to work things out, but in the end that micro-expression is a signal that he doesn't believe that after all the work he's done, he could really do something about his son. Maybe that's why he doesn't want Tammy to be responsible for that, and that explains all the other signals of frustration. But what happens with Franklin's face when the subject of parental abuse comes up?
Is accusing you of parental abuse, even though he's an adult, nearly 33 years old. He is nearly 33 years old. He is...
There's absolutely no head movement, no change in the expression of his eyes, only a tongue show and a pushing of his lip to one side. That sentence triggered a memory that he's trying to disguise, and his mouth gave it away. We can't know what kind of memory was that, but if you were the one interviewing him, you already know that this topic is something that causes emotional reactions in him. So it's a good idea to focus your questions on it. His answer is your regular, I love my son, yada yada yada, except for this.
There's never been anything physical that concerns me or even makes me uncomfortable, because I know the truth, he knows the truth, and I love him. And there's never been anything physical that concerns me or even...
He has been looking down almost through the whole interview. Alright, he feels ashamed, but if he's looking down the whole time, his credibility is going to plummet. Also, it's concerning that when he's about to say, there's never been anything physical, he stutters, his words stumble. He's had a regular speaking speed through the whole interview and suddenly he stumbles at that sentence. Right after that, his shoulders tense a lot, anyone can see it. These are the kind of clues that you should be aware of when someone denies physical abuse. they might be thinking, well, what I did was not really physical abuse, and that's why it's so important that you question directly and hear it explicitly from them. Tamron asks Tammy about her experience with Kirk and Kerrion's struggle, and she's overall truthful with her statement and has very few emotional displays, like this one.
But you've experienced this for the many years. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no body language analysis that doesn't rely on reaction to questions. Many times you can watch someone elaborate about their experience and talk about it in a calm and collected way. But the trick is to spot people's reactions right after being asked a question. That's when you should focus your observation. And there's another clue that Franklin feels this is a lost battle.
Are you both still trying to reach out and figure out a way forward?
I think that this one is very painful.
That was a yes or no question. He didn't answer directly. He evaded the question. He still has his eyes down and he touches his nose at the same time. It's important to remember that touching your nose in itself is not a lying clue, but it's an emotional reaction that is stacked along all the other clues that we've seen about his statement. So are they really trying to figure out a way forward? I don't think so. By the way, do you remember how important it is to pay attention to the first and last frame of a video to uncover real intentions? Let's see what can you spot in the very last frame of this interview.
That I am an imperfect man fighting to serve a perfect God. Fighting to serve a perfect God.
Right at the end, we see a glimpse of arrogance. Again, it reinforces the theory that he did apologize. He is ashamed of the situation, but he's really not sorry for what he did. We are not the ones to judge his actions. No one can judge them. Every single person's experience, struggles, inner fights, family feuds are unique, and we will never be able to know exactly what Franklin has been through with his son. Whether if you agree with Franklin's actions or not, this helps us have a better insight into the real emotions of a person that apologizes for something that they did, but deep inside they're still convinced that they did what they had to do. In the end, cursing doesn't solve anything, and in fact it always has the opposite effect of what you're trying to achieve. And those signals about physical abuse, well, I think that should be investigated further. And the answer to the body language riddle:
I'm human and I'm gonna make mistakes and I'm trying to get it right.
That rapid blinking, tongue show, and deep breath is a sign of frustration. Remember that he was truthful when talking about his toxic relationship with his son. Now he's trying to show himself as a human, and that's great. Those emotional reactions show that he's frustrated with himself and how he hasn't been able to solve the issues with his son. Did you see any other clues in the video? Don't forget to share them in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you don't want to miss any of my body language analysis and tips. See you next time!